Who told you this was public property? She sneered at me. And I swear my blood boiled right there at the gate. Imagine someone rolling through your driveway day after day like you're the one trespassing, tossing around big words about compliance and accessibility while you're standing there holding your coffee, wondering if you've lost your damn mind. It wasn't just annoying. It started to feel deliberate, like she wanted me rattled, cornered. I knew something was off, but I didn't know how far they'd push. Comment what you would have done if it were your land. The motion sensor beeped at 5:37 a.m., which meant someone was approaching my ranch gate before sunrise. I grabbed my coffee from the counter and walked to the kitchen window, expecting to see a delivery truck, or maybe Rick checking his fence line. Instead, I watched an SUV cruise straight through my property entrance like the driver owned the place. No slowing down, no courtesy wave, just rolling gravel under expensive tires and the casual assumption that my private ranch was community property. I stepped outside into the November chill, coffee steam mixing with my breath as I watched the vehicle navigate my dirt road. The driver had to be local. Nobody unfamiliar would attempt this route in the dark without GPS guidance. The SUV made confident turns around the hay barn and headed toward the back pasture where my cattle guard connects to the county road. This wasn't someone lost or confused. This was someone following a predetermined path through private property. My steel latch system at the gate had been bending under pressure for 3 days now. Simple welding scars marking where strangers tested boundaries and left faint tool marks on the lock casing. So far, 14 scratches from delivery services, neighbors, and emergency personnel vehicles. Professional tracks from people who respected rural property limits. The SUV never slowed to acknowledge. Around noon, the SUV returned from the opposite direction. I was replacing fence post near the cattle guard when I heard the engine approaching. The driver pulled right up to where I was working and rolled down the window. A middle-aged woman with expensive sunglasses and the kind of confident smile people use when they expect compliance. "Good afternoon," she said, checking something on a tablet device. "I'm Denise from the HOA Traffic and Landscape Committee. We're documenting observed traffic patterns for our Green Corridor Accessibility Initiative." I sat down my post-hole digger and looked at her vehicle, then back at her tablet screen. Accessibility initiative on my private ranch? She adjusted her sunglasses and tapped her tablet with obvious impatience. This thoroughfare has been established community access for years. We're simply formalizing the Green Corridor designation to comply with county transportation standards. Really? You're telling me my ranch gate is now a public road? She showed me her tablet screen displaying what looked like official documentation with survey markers and traffic flow arrows. Observed use patterns indicate regular community thoroughfare status. We're working with county planning to ensure accessibility compliance for emergency services and environmental corridor preservation. The formal language sounded impressive, but I noticed the documentation looked more like preliminary sketches than official county records. I asked to see her identification and documentation authority. She produced an HOA committee badge and business cards for something called Green Corridor Environmental Planning. If you obstruct established community thoroughfare access, we'll need to issue compliance notices and potentially involve county enforcement. The threat delivery was smooth and practiced, suggesting she'd used this approach successfully with other property owners. "Before you start issuing compliance notices," I said, pulling out my phone, "maybe we should verify your authority with the county directly." Her confident expression flickered briefly before returning to professional composure. "That won't be necessary. These are standard accessibility improvements mandated by state environmental regulations." She started her engine and prepared to leave. "We'll be conducting regular monitoring to ensure compliance with established thoroughfare protocols." As her SUV drove away, I noticed something in my peripheral vision. A battered gate hinge was hanging twisted. Splintered wood scattered. Like teeth on the gravel. When Denise's vehicle disappeared around the bend, the camera feed caught false license plate numbers peeling off. Both details looked intentional rather than random. Evidence of tampering at the hinge and altered plates suggested coordinated sabotage instead of casual passage. I spent the afternoon building a reinforced wooden barricade at both gates and setting up a concealed blocking trap. Nothing dangerous or explosive, just heavy timber angled to jam any SUV trying to force its way through. If Denise and her committee wanted to claim established thoroughfare status, they'd now have to explain why her car ended up stuck at my gate instead of rolling freely across my land. Around sunset, Rick pulled up on his ATV. "Saw you installing security equipment," he said, dismounting near the gate. "Everything all right over here?" I explained about the morning trespassing and Denise's claims about established thoroughfare status. Rick nodded grimly and pointed toward the county road. "She's been pressuring several property owners about right-of-way access. Claims to have authority from environmental planning." Rick pulled out a folded paper from his jacket pocket showing a form letter sent to multiple property owners. Some kind of green corridor project requiring community access verification. She needs to document observed traffic patterns for 90 days to unlock grant funding. The letterhead belonged to the HOA Traffic and Landscape Committee, not any county or state agency. Private HOA committees don't have authority to designate public thoroughfares on private property. "Did you respond to this letter?" I asked Rick. He shook his head and folded the paper back into his pocket. "Figured I'd wait and see how aggressive they get before involving lawyers. But if she's claiming established thoroughfare status on your place, she's probably building documentation for eminent domain or easement claims." The possibility hadn't occurred to me, but it made sense. Generate evidence of community use, claim established access rights, then formalize through legal proceedings. After Rick left, I reviewed the motion sensor logs on my phone. 2 motion activations. Denise's SUV at 12:15 p.m. and a mystery trailer at 12:18 p.m. 3-minute separation suggested coordination rather than coincidence. If this was legitimate traffic monitoring for county planning, why coordinate vehicle timing? The county office opened at 8 a.m. sharp, and I was waiting in the parking lot with my documentation folder and a fresh cup of coffee. 3 hours of sleep wasn't ideal, but the midnight coordination activity had convinced me this situation required immediate professional guidance. Ellen Martinez worked the information desk with the efficiency of someone who'd handled thousands of boundary disputes. "I need to verify whether any thoroughfare studies are authorized for ranch properties along County Road 42, I told her, sliding my property deed across the counter. She examined the deed carefully, then pulled up several computer screens simultaneously. "What type of thoroughfare designation are you questioning?" I explained about Denise's claims regarding established community access and environmental corridor planning requirements. Ellen's expression shifted from professional politeness to focused concern. "HOA committees don't have authority to designate public thoroughfares on private property. That requires County Planning Commission approval and formal eminent domain proceedings." While Ellen researched thoroughfare records, I called Rick to compare notes about the form letters. "Got another one yesterday," he said, sounding tired. "This time demanding financial disclosure about green corridor funding. Claims environmental regulations require verified grant paperwork before they can qualify." Ellen returned with survey maps and boundary documents. "No thoroughfare studies authorized for your area. No environmental corridor designations pending. No County Planning Commission hearing scheduled for ranch property access." She pointed to precise boundary markers. "These are your exact property lines according to official county surveys. Any claims about established community thoroughfares would require documented proof of continuous community use for minimum 20 years. I asked about HOA authority limits regarding private property access. Ellen explained that HOA committees could only regulate community property and enforce covenant restrictions on member properties. They cannot designate public thoroughfares, issue compliance notices for county regulations, or claim authority over non-member private property. Armed with official documentation, I drove directly to Rick's property to compare the pressure tactics. Rick met me at his gate with more form letters and what looked like official monitoring equipment. They installed this yesterday while I was in town, he said, pointing to a small electronic device attached to his cattle guard. The monitoring device appeared sophisticated and expensive. Digital display, solar charging panel, wireless transmission capability. Did they have permission to install equipment on your property? Rick shook his head grimly. Found it when I got home. No advance notice, no permission requested, no explanation provided. I examined the installation more closely and noticed similar equipment at 2 other ranch properties visible from Rick's gate. Within 30 minutes, we'd arranged an impromptu meeting at the community center for that afternoon. 5 ranch owners, all receiving identical pressure from Denise's committee, all discovering unauthorized surveillance equipment installed without permission. The community center meeting revealed the scope of the systematic pressure campaign. Everyone had received form letters claiming environmental planning authority. Everyone faced threats about compliance notices. Everyone discovered fabricated grant references attached without permission. One neighbor brought copies of state environmental regulations that Denise's letters referenced. After reviewing the actual statutes, we discovered the regulations applied to commercial development projects, not private ranch access. Another neighbor had researched the Green Corridor environmental planning organization mentioned in Denise's documentation. No business registration, no professional licensing, no county contractor certification. The organization doesn't exist in any official capacity. We spent 2 hours comparing documentation and discovered identical pressure tactics across all targeted properties. Same form letters, same authority claims, same monitoring equipment installation, same threats about compliance notices. But the targeting pattern seemed strategic rather than random. All affected properties bordered newer residential developments where Denise's HOA committee had jurisdiction. This isn't about environmental planning, I realized. This is about connecting HOA-controlled areas through private ranch properties. Rick suggested we contact a property rights attorney for legal guidance about addressing systematic trespassing and unauthorized equipment installation. Everyone agreed to contribute toward legal consultation fees and coordinate our response through unified documentation. Fire Marshal Tom Bradley arrived at 8 a.m. with professional measuring equipment and a serious expression that meant official business. I'd requested emergency vehicle access assessment after discovering Denise's claims about thoroughfare necessity for fire department operations. Tom spent 30 minutes examining both gates, measuring turn radius requirements, and testing ground stability for emergency vehicle operations. Emergency vehicles require minimum 12-foot clearance width and 300-foot straight approach for safe high-speed access, Tom explained, marking critical measurement points with white spray chalk. Your ranch gates provide 14-foot clearance with 450-foot approach visibility, easily exceeding county standards. I asked about Denise's claims regarding fire department operational requirements for alternative route access. Tom shook his head firmly and consulted his assessment documentation. Fire department has established routes through county roads with verified emergency vehicle compatibility. We don't require private property access for operational effectiveness unless specifically contracted through formal agreements. The professional assessment eliminated emergency access justification completely. My ranch gates exceeded safety standards, fire department operations didn't require private property routing, and formal emergency access agreements required official county approval processes. Around 10 a.m., Denise arrived with 3 additional HOA committee members, demanding group verification of emergency access assessment results. Tom Bradley examined their credentials and laughed quietly. HOA committees have zero authority over fire department operational procedures or emergency vehicle access standards. Your concerns are noted but irrelevant to professional assessment requirements. The committee members insisted that community thoroughfare access was essential for evacuation procedures during wildfire emergencies. Tom pulled out detailed evacuation maps and pointed to established emergency routes through county infrastructure. Community evacuation follows county emergency management protocols using public roads and designated evacuation zones. Private ranch access is not part of emergency evacuation procedures. I watched Denise grow increasingly defensive as Tom's professional assessment systematically debunked every emergency access justification they presented. Her tablet device contained what appeared to be fire department correspondence supporting thoroughfare access requirements. Tom examined the documentation and identified it immediately as fraudulent county letterhead with fabricated fire department endorsements. "This is fake county documentation with forged fire department authorization," Tom announced, photographing the fraudulent letters with his official camera equipment. "Creating false emergency service documentation constitutes criminal fraud and will be reported to county law enforcement for investigation." The HOA committee members exchanged nervous glances as their official justification collapsed under professional scrutiny. Tom continued his assessment with increased focus on documenting the fraudulent claims and false emergency authorization letters. After the HOA committee departed, Tom explained the legal implications of forged emergency service documentation. Impersonating county officials, creating false emergency service letters, and claiming fraudulent emergency authority constitute serious criminal charges. The community center meeting room felt different this time. Instead of 5 concerned ranch owners comparing notes, we had 17 property owners, 3 county officials, and documentation that could fill a small library. Word about systematic fraud and criminal investigation had spread through rural networks faster than wildfire. Ellen Martinez presided over official determination proceedings with comprehensive documentation proving systematic fraud and appropriate consequences for all responsible parties. County investigation concludes systematic fraud involving grant applications, authority overreach, and organized criminal conspiracy targeting multiple private property owners. Tom Bradley presented final assessment results confirming emergency access standards compliance and fraudulent authority claim elimination. Professional evaluation demonstrates emergency vehicle access exceeds county standards by substantial margins. Emergency service claims were fraudulent and designed to support systematic property acquisition through legal pressure. The consequences were appropriate and comprehensive. Denise permanently removed from HOA leadership positions with lifetime prohibition from committee participation. $7,700 in fines plus administrative investigation costs. Greenscape Services lost county contractor eligibility permanently with systematic fraud conviction. Federal grant applications were withdrawn permanently with systematic fraud exposure. Federal investigators confirmed comprehensive evidence compilation proving organized criminal enterprise with systematic coordination between committee members and professional contractors. Live coordination documentation provides irrefutable proof of systematic fraud conspiracy. Federal prosecution will proceed with organized crime charges and substantial criminal penalties. The county attorney representative explains civil litigation results and financial recovery procedures. Organized criminal enterprise assets seized for victim compensation. Property owners receive full restitution for surveillance violations and systematic targeting damages. Ellen Martinez presented official county easement policy clarification for future property access requests. Legitimate easement applications require County Planning Commission approval, formal property owner consent, and verified public necessity documentation. I walked to my ranch gate with fresh coffee and read the new official sign, Private Agricultural Access, County Verified Emergency Standards Exceeded. After months of chaos, professional verification replaced every fraudulent claim with undeniable proof. The motion sensors kept running, but now they recorded only authorized traffic under real oversight. Rick summed it up best: organized criminal enterprise eliminated. Property rights protected. Legitimate access procedures established. Maybe the real lesson here is that power only works when people stay silent. Evidence and unity will always shut it down. If you're still here, drop your thoughts below. That's it for now from QA Stories. Make sure you're subscribed and the bell's on. The next story might just top this one.